I'm Shy XL, man. And let me tell you something. We different over here. We big steppers. Let's go.
Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa. Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa. Yo, what you say? No, we don't play you out your mind. Watch what you say, that type of shit could get you lined. And if you search, then let me tell you what you'll find. The city is mine. Just a mud who became the pick of the litter. Now my name ring bells when you talk heavy hitters. Nice nigga, but don't make me transform like Thriller. Sam Cooke a nigga beat like I was born by the river. Go get her, you piss her, you get off of the shitter. Can't put you in the spotlight, you niggas are with her. Keep an eye open round for any nigga that slither. Cause it ain't no sunshine here like Bill Withers, whoa. Fuck you know about this life I live. How you gon' talk to me like I ain't lose no rib? Like I ain't lose no crib, ain't lose no kid. Ain't sleep in my car and I ain't lose no gig. Shit, I never gave an order that I ain't did. And I ain't never take a fucking thing that I wouldn't give. Always kept it a bill, homie, I ain't fib. And if I had to go sit, then I just do my bid. Yo, my whole team full of steel beams we can't fold. Your whole circle full of some squares you can't roll. That's why we always take it to levels you can't go. Talk shit, but you can see me with these hands though. If looks to kill like Cyclops, these niggas wanna see me in Pine Box. Know that on my watch, got a better chance to rewind clocks when you quit nigga when time stops, bitch. Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa. Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa.
This flow is award-winning. Torment him, bomb to death, I'm bored with him. Trash him, throw him away with the has-beens. Ice cold with the flow, I'm Alaskan. You was in the fucking jungle in the past tense. I be with the lions, they my friends, Carol Baskin. And like her, they'll never find a body. Tiger stripe tracksuit, feeling like Joe Exotic. Shit, I don't know what it is, but I know I got it. Feeling like Alonzo, surgical with the shotty. All you see is skull and bones, Illuminati. Probably, I be the illest nigga to do it. I just talk shit on the beat and they call it music. I just come provide you with heat, remain the coolest. You ain't never been in the street with all the shooters. I was sipping yak with rioters and looters. Gotta keep my boots laid, shoot straight. Run up on you with the deuce 8 in a screw face. It's bad out here, my style effortless. 2 hands hugging a Ruger, so affectionate. A lot of suckers don't want war, I'm respecting it. Biggest stepper, snatch your plate, the hood starving. Cause they got beard shoe trades like James Harden. Straight from NY to Philly, we still mobbing.
Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa. Go get a big stepper. Hard body, one West rapper. Put on for my king, my niggas. Certified one West hitters, whoa. 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 Whoa.
Ooh, 27 Club.
All right, gang, let's really nail it this time. Here we go. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hillstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk can't nothing, we on fellowship. Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hillstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk can't nothing, we on fellowship. Florida Lee on my top, this a Saints hat. This the third can't be been in here, J-Cat. Nigga tryna steal the sauce, yeah, I hate that. But I ain't make the rules, I can't change that. New bottle, new wine, yeah, I can't crack. Look, flag on the play, they grabbing face masks. Niggas always saving hoes where your cape at. The only killer that you know without no face tag. Hell yeah, my bitch bad, Proverbs 31, yeah. This is not a drill, I be 30'd up, yeah. He about to crack the sky, you better hurry up. It's all bad when you see us hang that jersey up. It's mad brick, I got the blick with my cover on. He a fed, he a op, got his cover blown. Look, I'm really outside without no scully on. It's one West, bitch, I'm on with my brothers on. He got ranked, then he left, he broke another oath. I got the plate, we about to take another zone. They was sleeping on the team, now they comatose. Left his brother out to dry, I guess he wanna fold. Put the oil on his head, that's another soul. I try to tell him we a pro, don't do this shit at home. She unhappy, left her man, she a 304. He try to justify that shit, he broke the penal code. Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hellstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk cat nothing, we on fellowship. Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hellstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk cat nothing, we on fellowship. Gotta watch these niggas, they be cointel. Lil' bro ain't never killed nobody, but I know he will. It's on me, yeah, where I go, yeah, that's the holy seal. My niggas itching when it's up, you better not touch a chair. Ooh, I'm with the extra, that's off the bag. He ain't loyal to his brothers, how you follow that? She either working with her hands or she off her bag. Broke bitches, yeah, they done that, give me a heart attack. You see the banner, but my head, I'm a part of that. These niggas cowards, pussies, we don't want no parts in that. They let our warrior out of prison, he ain't going back. And don't be speaking on the truth, cause we with all of that. Look, before they started dissing, they was fans first. You will never catch me digging in no man purse. Really put my brick in, that's why my hands hurt. And don't be speaking bullshit, that make my head hurt. Look, I done burn my fingers from the Michael Drake. For the brotherhood, I done threw my life away. I never see him, tell him come out from their hiding place. We can't do it, we told them we gon' find a way. They'd rather march 1,000 deep, we rather feed the people. They wouldn't put on all black, now he reading Hebrew. UPK the standard if you speak on Hebrew. Don't think they solid, get with them niggas just gon' leave you. Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hellstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk cat nothing, we on fellowship. Been in this shit for some years, I ain't never left. Nigga try to save his life like he's scared of death. I got Hellstar on my body, bitch, I'm heaven sent. Hey, this Isupk cat nothing, we on fellowship.
Y'all ain't ready yet, man. Here it come right now. Prepare yourself. Here comes the boom.
Here come the boom. Look who just stepped in the room. Got soldiers in every direction. As long as they steppin' in tune. I been all black with the groom. Watching Babylon fall to doom. Lord, know I'm ready, and I know that you know that her love is deadly, but I am immune. These niggas talking rude to whom? That's a spot, you'll be moving soon, and you'll be leaving shortly. Still walking with them angels, yeah, they still enforce me. Got a whole lot of zeal, I can't get it off me. Plus I'm winning like I got a blue ribbon on me. He ain't one what, bitch, I beg your pardon. See, I knew these niggas like to do that pillow talking, so that's why I bought a Glock to the slumber party. Got it off the dust. I just began to it pretty much. That brotherhood of weapon, gotta keep it in the clutch. If it ain't one West, nigga, hush. I don't wanna hear it, keep the tone down. Had a couple complications, but it's on now. So you can kill it, speculation, bitch, I'm thrown down. And if you want a conversation, set his zone down. What he say, I ain't hear him, I done zoned down. Can't walk, this a low mouth. I'm 44, I'm on another level with it. These niggas never listen, so I let the devil get his ass. I try to tell him, I'm a rebel nigga. Better be careful if you ever think I'm stepping in my path. Cause it ain't no game, stay in your lane. Now I'm playing twisted metal with his ass. Got it off the dub. I just began to it pretty much. That brotherhood of weapon, gotta keep it in the clutch. Revenge still my main bitch, I think I got a crush. And she know that I got some sick shit inside me. But you know it should be K versus everybody. Got the side, move the buttons like he Teddy Riley. Now my race through the track like a Ricky Bobby. Got it off the dust. I just began to it pretty much. That brotherhood of weapon, gotta keep it in the clutch. Gotta keep it with me, it's a must. Got it off the dust. I just began to it pretty much. That brotherhood of weapon, gotta keep it in the clutch. If it ain't one West, nigga, hot.
You heard what he said. If it ain't one West, nigga, hush. Watch your goddamn mouth, man. We ain't the same. We not the same. We'll never be the same. We react different. We live different. And we're gonna keep on pushing this truth. until your house shall return, sucker. And y'all niggas out there, y'all lukewarm. Y'all can never be us, cause we hot. Burning hot. Let's
All right, Shalom Israel, Yahweh Shem Yahshua B'Katham to the brothers, Yahweh Shem Latam B'Shem Yahshua to the sisters. We are the Isupk, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, established in 1969, 1 West on the 25th Street, Harlem, New York. We're led by Commander General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other organization. Israel, pay your tithes. Pay your tithes, pay your tithes. We are Isupk Milwaukee, coming to you live with Lashwan Kodash, the Hebrew language class, the Holy Tongue. Any questions, comments, or concerns in the room? Feel free to engage in the chat. Try to keep it on topic. Any questions that I might not be able to answer on the spot, we'll defer to the men above me, and we'll get back to you. But we are going to get into this lesson. I think we're gonna get into start breaking into the tenses. So one source that has proven to be pretty solid in this regard is the Blue Letter Bible, BLB. See about share this screen. Okay. All right, so Hebrew tenses. Past, present, future. Different aspects of sentence structure or word structure that will be important in understanding the application of words. Same as in English, the same effect in Hebrew. So I'm just gonna bring this up, and we can kind of read this opening tutorial from the Blue Letter Bible. What are we talking about here? Hebrew tenses. What do the Hebrew verb tenses mean? When accessing information about verbs throughout our Old Testament concordances, you'll find numerous references to Hebrew tenses, such as qual or hifil. The following list identifies each verb tense and its part in speech via a comparative example in English. They're going to give us the example of love. Now, again, the words that they're using here, qual or hippo, nefal, pael, puel, hippiel, these are all looking pretty Yiddish. Pretty Yiddish. We're gonna get some clarity on this real quick. Yeah, all right. So these are going to be Yiddish terms. For all intensive purposes, we might have to use the terms that they are providing. Otherwise, I will find and apply the best equivalent in English, just so that again we're not overlapping and what's the word? Cross-contaminating the cultures here. So if you were to do a Google search on some of these, You have active, you have passive. Reflective, or it's like a reflexive. And when we're going through verses in the Blue Letter Bible, open up another page to kind of show. When we're going through verses with it, you can see alongside the definition, and there'll be like a little toolbar that opens up. We'll just go to Genesis real quick. Okay. All right, so if we were to, just looking at this page, if you were to open up the tools on the left side here, you see how that little options bar opens up with the interlinear Bibles, cross-referencing, things like that. Just press on that tools bar. And then in the Hebrew script here, if you hover over, the word in that verse, it'll highlight in yellow in the interlinear underneath. Now, if you click on that highlighted word in the verse, it'll give you kind of a general, a quick little tool guide into the word, offering the Strong's reference, the Hebrew concordance. And now the code. The code is the part that we're going to be kind of looking at there for the structure of the word. Now, if you go down just a little bit further underneath, it'll kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown. It's got, again, the code, it's got the H, the R, which labels it as a preposition, the ba, and highlights the character that's in that word for that designated code. So it's a preposition. Ba is a preposition, and we've gone over that in a previous class where ba was for or from, even. And then how it's always, added to the beginning of the word. And actually, in this case, we'll see Bara'ashiath. So that ba is the preposition in the beginning. So into, for, from, those are kind of some of the applications of ba, just depending on the context. There might be a little bit of an overlap with like the word la. That also means two. So just, again, the application of the word in the context will let you know what direction it's heading in there. Now, if you click on the next tab next to the R, the NCFSA. So it's letting you know that that's a noun, it's a common, feminine, singular, absolute. That's just a breakdown of the letters that they're using in that code. So now we're also gonna, under additional sources, we're gonna check out some of the different tabs that they have. And this is just kind of help us navigate the Blue Letter Bible. And it's always good to have, a Strong's Concordance in front of you. They'll have it attached here. But even having extra biblical sources to cross-reference and double-check your work and the findings, that's always a good idea to have. Hey, Shalom. Shout out to Priest Nelson for 5,000. I'm at a bar down there in Louisiana. His amazing family. The system is Amana. Shalom, sis. Y'all smart out there by some y'all shot. In New Orleans. So now just real quick, we're going to go back and share this page. That's the wrong one. There. Nope. It's like I lost that page. I'm back to it. So just scroll down on the additional resources, how Hebrew verbs work. And that brings us back to the original spot that we had landed on. I just want to give you that quick little kind of run through. So anytime you're, and again, this is just, primarily for the Blue Letter Bible. Other platforms got different methods to their madness, but for what we're using here, this platform got some good, a lot of valuable tools to help navigate the site and get a little bit more familiar with the vocabulary that we're dealing with here. So now, all right. So we have active and passive under the simple heading. See that highlighted here, simple. We're going to disregard these Yiddish terms. We'll just use the application that they're being applied in, because up here we have active and passive, and then under intensive, you have different forms of active and passive. So we'll be exploring a little bit with different words and see where they get placed, the differences, the commonalities, the differences between them. We'll plug in a couple vocabulary words and then see what forms they take. So in the simple tense, he loved. So normally when we see the word or the addition of ed on the end of a word, that normally kind of connotates a past tense. I borrowed money. I was going to say I slept, but that T is a kind of a different variation of that ed. But a lot of times we'll see it being used as something to refer to what had happened in the past. But now these are also, depending again on the word itself and the application of it, we can see how it's used in the present too. Because we can see how he had, in the example that they're using with loved here, active, he loved. So now you could, depending on the context again of the conversation, you could say that the love was also past tense. Like he loved milkshakes until, the age of 12. And then he just grew out of them. Or he loved milkshake so much that, he gained 300 pounds. So same word, same spelling, same ed at the end of it, but we can see in the application of it, we can just leave it in the past tense, or it can still be active in the present. Now the concept of passive here, he was loved. So not that person directly taking an action, but I guess an experience or quality being applied to them. He was loved. He was hated. But this can also, again, depending on the context. I know a lot of people get tired of us prioritizing context, but life is context. And if you don't understand the context of any given situation, you're bound to misread the room, give a non-equivalent answer. You're bound to miss the mark if you're not considering the context of that moment in time that you are living in. So he was loved. Now, maybe this individual passed, and they're speaking on it in the past tense, where his family did love him. They loved him when he was alive. He's dead, so you can. It's not quite the same thing anymore. That love kind of transforms into something different. But saying in a present tense sense that he was loved, or he is loved by his people. He was loved at the concert. That doesn't I guess that's definitely still past tense, but we can see the passive application to it here. Now, intensive, giving force or emphasis, emphasizing, very in the very same man, is an intensive verb. So the active application, he loved indeed. He loved excessively. Again, something that person is doing outwardly. The passive application, he was indeed loved. He was loved excessively. Again, that quality being applied to him. Reflexive, he loved himself. Certainly nothing wrong there. Causative, expressing causation as certain verbs. Fell is a causative verb, meaning to cause to fall. So the active application here, he caused to love. Passive, he was caused to love. Now, you're not going to have to use the word caused in there for each. Any time that you go down that road. But for the examples that they're giving. So now again, they're going to kind of do the same thing that we had just walked through with using the different toolbars on the side. So we'll switch back to this screen. Oh, my fault. That was on the wrong page. With that excellent breakdown. But if you're going to the Blue Letter Bible yourself and go back to this, click on any word, it'll give you that option of looking at how the Hebrew verbs work. So we'll check out the Simplified Hebrew Grammar PDF. Now again, the standard that they're going off of, just because of the dominant culture in society, is the Yiddish. It's going to be from kind of their vantage point as far as pronunciation. I guess mainly the pronunciation, and we can see that being displayed here with their E's, the V's, and then these words themselves. For example, Yod. In Hebrew, it would be Yad, Y-A-D, but they're using Y-O-D. Now, the meaning doesn't really change. As far as I know, they've, despite the phonetic, sound that the Yiddish is written in or expressed in, for the most part, what I've seen, the definitions have stayed the same. So now here, just giving you a quick overview of the alphabet, which we have done a few times. You can see again the little vowel points snuck in there, which just it's not something that's from the Israelite culture. There's this book that we have. It's a good study book to use. It's also a workbook. So if you were to pick one up, you could actually kind of work along in it. Just to show you what it is. It is the Biblical Hebrew, a text and workbook. Can't get this just a little bit closer for you. Biblical Hebrew, a text and workbook by Bonnie Pedrati Kittle, Vicky Hoffer, and Rebecca Apps Wright. Now, on one of these pages, which is very important to understand, is that there was an intended change in the original language here. All right, there we go. Right away on page 3, they offer this explanation. And now this is a book from, you can't be able to see it here, but if you look on the spine of it, you're going to see Yale. So now this is a book that was authored by Yale graduates, by the Yale University, the institution itself. Maybe that's a credible source to you or not. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. But on page 3, at the top of the page, the first paragraph, the Hebrew alphabet is the oldest in the world, still in use today. Our own alphabet is a descendant of it by a circuitous route. The text of the Hebrew Bible we use today reflects several periods of development. Originally, only the consonants were used. By the time of the Israelite kingdom, some consonants were used to indicate certain vowels. Now, I'm not sure what kingdom they're talking about here, but they do get into the Middle Ages, the Masoretes. So that is quite a while after our kingdom had been destroyed. So you can can always check out what period they're referring to there. But again, a lot of this is going to be coming from a Yiddish oral history that does not have the most accurate grasp on history from an Israelite standpoint, because again, it was a converted culture around, was like 600 or 700 AD, a Khazarian empire that had converted itself into Judaism in the midst of a war between Christianity and Islam. They try to find a happy medium down the middle. And since the Israelite nation had been destroyed and disbanded for quite some time at this point, for almost half a millennium, they were able to pretty easily just assume the driver's seat from there. So just calling themselves the Israelites, calling themselves the Jews, having a different tongue, a different dialect than us, trying to make sense of our culture, our written culture, to their oral culture, they had to substitute vowel sounds into it. So now still, again, playing the part of the Israelites, using our alphabet, designating certain characters with, different functions, where they could be used as a consonant or they could be used as a vowel. So that wa turn into a wa, a va, an o, or a u. The ya, I think they have that even interchangeable with the letter e, or think they have that interchangeable with the letter E, as well as Y. Oh, well, actually, in this book, it does kind of offer a bit of a breakdown to it. So in long E, for, again, all applied to the character Yah, expressed as the long E as in prayed, or a long I as in machine. And then for the Wa character, they'll give it allowance to be used as a long O as in hope, or a long U as in flute. Again, that's all Yiddish. The original language only used consonants. So now there's a natural kind of gap in the breath in between consonants, where it might take on what you might consider a vowel sound or a vowel value, but it's not a vowel. Intentionally, it's not intentionally meant as a vowel. So even our ah and our I, not even intentionally vowels by cultural standard, just vowels by today's common understanding. So now going back to the Blue Letter Bible's simplified Hebrew grammar. Just after that brief little explanation. Make sure we're finding some of the right points here. Let's see, in the index, we'll just skip down to section 2. So we're going to skip over to page 7. I don't think they did anything, did it? Oh, that's all right. That's already where it was. All right, scrolling down more. Trying to find where they had the tense. So they're often kind of a workbook in this as well. So if you wanted to study up, again, being very cautious. In your travels through this, because again, you're gonna be learning the Yiddish history. That's what we're looking for. Verb tenses, that's what we're looking for. Section 3, page 29. Looks like that's not even where it necessarily starts. So if we were to look at their page 28, we have a brief read through of gender and number in Hebrew: nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, and participles. In Hebrew, you have masculine and feminine gender and nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, verbs, and participles. Now, that does not mean that, let's just take the word it, for example, the word be or the, and it's given a feminine or a masculine gender, a designation. It doesn't mean that the word the is girly and that the word be is, for the boys. It's more of a dominant and submissive kind of role that the words would take throughout the sentence. So now in English, we too have masculine and feminine pronouns, he and she. Although we do not have a specifically designated neuter gender, we oftentimes refer to something as it or that in our designations of objects. In some languages such as Greek, Latin, and German, you do have what is called a neuter gender, and whatever gender the noun may be in one of those three languages, the adjective, including the participle when used adjectively, must also correspond with the noun in it is modifying in the same gender. So the same is true for Hebrew, with the difference being that Hebrew does not have a neuter gender because there's only two genders. So again, there's a cultural kind of disconnect in that respect. We're not gonna, there isn't a gray area per se. Now they're saying that it's true of all Semitic languages. In addition, that which Semitic languages have that Latin and German do not have is a masculine and feminine form for regular verb forms in the second and third persons, singular and plural. Now they're offering us a list below which contains the primary plural endings for masculine and feminine nouns, adjectives, and participles. However, with the masculine and feminine singular endings, the very best way to unequivocally identify the gender of a noun, adjective, or participle is to look it up in either the analytical lexicon or the Hebrew to English lexicon. And again, with that, you're going to see, I'm sorry, this mouse is. It's quick. Okay. All right, so the list below contains primary endings for masculine and feminine, nouns, adjectives, and participles. Or if the masculine and feminine singular ending is the very best way to unequivocally identify the gender of a noun, adjective, or participle is to look it up in either the analytical lexicon or the Hebrew to English lexicon. On the other hand, there are 5 identifying marks for a singular feminine noun. For a singular feminine noun, adjective, or participle that will be helpful, and those identifying feminine marks are on the second list. So in the first list, they're giving us as a masculine plural, yum. Yum. Now, again, they're going to pronounce it ein. I don't know if that's like a long I or a short I necessarily, but in Hebrew, it's yum. You got the ya and the ma. Now, that's always going to be indicating a plural word. Whereas for the feminine noun, it will take on a nasium. Nasium. Now, the masculine plural also has what is called a construct form, which occurs when the plural masculine noun is attached to another noun, describing the plural number of whatever is being talked about. Thus, when you read in Genesis 13 and 13, and we'll open that up right away also. Genesis 13. Verse 13. Let's finish their explanation real quick. And the following, and the men of Sodom were very wicked and sinners against the Lord. The phrase men of, in its construct form and consequently written form, is anasia versus the normal plural of men, which would be anasia. So now it seems to be indicating that if you were just to have the word men without the adage of men of, like the men of Sodom, the standard form would be Anash Yum. Again, that yum carrying that typical plural quality, versus with the adage of, the form it takes on is Anash Ya. Let's just switch over to Genesis 13:13 real quick. We can see what they're talking. So here it opens up with and actually their explanation of it too is slightly off. Just as far as how they're referring to the blue letter breakdown of the scripture defining men here, because for that whole word Anasya, but the men. So now wa, again, if we highlight that, we're going to see how it does get divided here. And it's got the using the wa as a conjunction. Wa as a preposition attached to a word is the. So like you might hear us during the prayers or a lot of scriptures, waha, waha, waha. Actually, Salaki, I misspoke on that. Normally, wa is and. Make sure I'm right here. So give me 1 second here. Just double check my work. Yeah, so Slakia. So typically, wa does take on the form of and. Again, each word, each character can have multiple applications. But we're seeing here how wa is going to be substituted to take on the position of but the for the conjunction. That conjunction part of speech. Just to get the definition of a conjunction, conjunctions connect words, phrases, sentences, or paragraphs. The most common conjunctions in English are and, or, but, and for. So a lot of times we normally see wa as and then we normally see ha as the. And again, when we're translating, from different languages, you might always have a little bit of an overlap in, like we're translating things from Hebrew into English. So the applications, the uses of words in English, they're just trying to make sense of the different cultures. The use of the words in English are, let me just say, English is such a much broader, wilder cultural language than the Hebrew. So you might have to pull a couple teeth in the initial stages trying to make sense of Hebrew words in the English tongue or in the Spanish tongue or in the German tongue, whichever was you're trying to translate it into. It might take pulling a little bit of teeth initially to get that established. All right, so Slovakia, Sammy, Shalom, Sammy. In its simplest form, what is the difference of the masculine and feminine form? What is the simplest difference between the masculine and feminine form? It's a good question. And again, the main difference that we're going to see between them, again, because it's not always going to be gender specific or indicative of gender, of like physical actual gender. But whether those words are taking a more, the application of the word, is it going to be passive? Is it going to be active? Past, present, and future. Scroll down. So now we see in the first portion of it, for the masculine plural, used with the young. Now here in the feminine plural, it's with a wath. Wath. Now they're going to offer, however, some nouns have both masculine and feminine plural endings. And the example they're given is generation. It's a masculine noun, but it has both masculine and feminine plural endings. So if we were to take a look at the word generation, let's go back to the blue letter and type in generation. The examples that they're using might not be the same examples that we're finding in here. Let's see if they offer scriptures to go with it. So the word itself being dewar, Genesis 7:1. All right, so just by itself, dewar. Now let's look at generations. Now we're adding the S on there. So in English, that's adding, that's making it plural. So now let's see how in this specific verse, Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, the form that it would take. Which initially I'm not even seeing it up there. That's a completely different word that they're using for generations. Genesis 5:1. See if this offers. Yeah, again, a completely different word. Let's take a look at one that they're giving us. Because that's using, if we highlight this here, we're going to see the wath at the end of it. So it's definitely giving it, it's still in a plural format, using that feminine plural at the end of this. I'm still getting more familiar with these aspects myself. So the application of feminine plural versus masculine plural is still something I'm checking out. Let's see where else. If it's getting used in the same form, let's just open up numbers real quick. Numbers 1 and 20. And actually there it's taken on a different form as well. So the root of it would have the wath at the end of it, using that feminine plural. But the form that it takes on in the actual verse is thumb. Instead of wath, we got thumb. Thawalad thumb. Instead of thawalad tha. Thawalad wath. They're often as a suffix, pronominal, third person, taken on a masculine. Let's look at the definition for pronominal. Pronominal suffixes refer to a person or a thing that can be attached to nouns, verbs, prepositions, participles, infinitives, even some particles. A pronominal suffix nearly always functions as either a personal pronoun, as in I or me, or a possessive pronoun, my or mine. So this is taking on that possessive pronoun. In English, we're reading it in by their generations. And for that, it takes on thumb. Or I should say, simply just the ma in this case. And we're seeing if we just look at the root, the common form of it, tha waladath, that tha is still making this plural. It's still feminine, which is going to be one of the patterns that you see a lot with that kind of difference, that identifying difference between masculine and feminine plurals is the ma and the tha. The ma seems to be normally attached to masculine. Masculine uses and applications, and then the tha is usually designated to a feminine. Switching back into the simplified Hebrew grammar. Some of the other examples that they're going to offer here for their second list. We had went through the first list. The second list, female individuals and animals are feminine nouns. Typically, nouns ending in a singular form with ha are feminine nouns. And again, it doesn't mean that it's making it a girly term. Typically, noun or slakia. Some nouns that are masculine but also have a female counterpart are made feminine by appending the ha to it. So now we got the word malak that they're using. Now, for the female equivalent, malak would be a masculine term. Malakah, they're using for queen. Now, to be clear on something real quick, in the Hebrew culture, we did not have queens per se. You had the wife or the wives of the patriarch or the king. Switch back over here real quick. You had the wife or the wives of the patriarch or the king, but we didn't have queens like that. In today's society, queens, they hold an office, they have power and authority over men, over the kingdom. That's not something that we allotted our women to have. They don't hold rank in Israel, except for maybe over the kids. They've got authority over the kids. That's one of their offices, being the mother. But we don't. It's a poor translation to use queen, because you will see. I wonder if they offer a verse for that. I'll look one up, but you'll see the word in English queen. At this time, though, again, when they're making that translation, it's kind of in a newer age where different cultures had, I don't know, for lack of a better term, an evolved sense of the word. Whereas if you go into antiquity, that word queen, which was also spelled different, it was still talking about a woman, but not in this grandiose way that we find the word being applied today. Back then, that word, it was indicative of a promiscuous woman, a harlot, a impudent woman. I don't want to say a clamorous woman necessarily by definition, but it wasn't a good term. So you could definitely be the queen of a king, but that station, like it wasn't something that was honorable. But that man may have given you some kind of status elevation, being his queen, being his whore. You could have been his prized whore, his bottom. I don't want to go too far with the language, but in the world of prostitution, as a pimp might say, my bottom B word, female dog, my bottom female dog, your bottom B, that could have been your queen. Now, as time had evolved into it changing into something, that's somehow worthy of notoriety. Yeah, I'm not sure what era that took place in, but just in Hebrew culture, that's not something that's not really a concept that we had. Not to say that the wife of the king or the patriarch should take, a derogatory, position in life, but it's just we're not exalting them in that capacity. But today, when you hear the word queen, it makes women drop their drawers for whatever knucklehead that's got an unk around his neck or some RBG colors around his on his scarf. He starts throwing out the word queen, and now women are they're susceptible to that kind of hustle. So now it's just a commonly accepted term, meaning, I guess the female equivalent of a king, which just there isn't. I know that there's a couple of cultures out there that are matriarchal, where the woman is, the authority, the dominant authority of that family, that tribe, that society, that village, that whole community. But it wasn't us. That's not something that we indulged. But you can see the application that they have here, malak, to feminize that, malakah. Their point then number 4, nouns ending in a singular with tha are generally feminine. Amath, or truth. So like Captain Debar Amath. Now that is, about as masculine of a brother as you can imagine. Take that back down real quick. Actually, we'll pull that up in the blue letter also, just so you can see truth. They have experienced an error. There we go. Okay. Truth. Now, this whole thing, this whole lesson that we're doing right now, this is not going to be covered in one day. We're going to go over this a few times just to make sense of it and to get the experience, getting familiar with it. Salaki. All right, so so they still have and his truth. So now they've got click it. Well, they've got a possessive attached to it. There we go. Wa amathwa. So now you can see in the division of it, you got the wa amath and the wa at the end. So now again, they describe it as a suffix. We don't normally use that term necessarily, but again, pronominal being descriptive of the function for a personal pronoun or possessive pronoun. In this case, we're going to see it expressed as let me find. It's going to be used as a possessive pronoun because it's his truth. So that "wa" in there is indicating his. So his being a possessive pronoun. The "wa" we see beforehand in the example I was trying to illustrate earlier, where "wa" was normally used as "and," now we can actually see that. All kind of verbatim, and his truth, "wa amath wa." But now our main focus right now is just looking at the root word, amath. So now it's an adverb, it's a feminine noun. Now again, that I should have tried to pull this up also, but let me see if I can't let's see if we can't get a better grammatical handle on why would something be used or classified as masculine or feminine. All right, so a quick AI overview from Google kind of gives a better explanation than how I had worded it. But in many languages, grammatical gender is a feature of nouns where they are classified as masculine or feminine, sometimes neutral. This classification doesn't always correspond to biological sex, but rather grammatical convention. In English, the grammatical gender is less prominent than in languages like French or Spanish, but it still exists, particularly with nouns referencing to people and animals. Just trying to click off it. Okay. Now we can see their masculine nouns referring to males, like man, boy. Now again, these are gender specific, even when they're looking at animals: rooster, stallion, lion. You got lioness for the female counterpart, or maybe a mare for the horses. Inanimate objects, though, while less common, some inanimate objects might be assigned masculine gender in languages with strong grammatical gender systems. Kind of does not answer the question, but let's see what they offer for feminine aspects. Yeah, pretty much the same thing that we had said. Similar to masculine, some inanimate object might be assigned feminine gender for whatever reason, apparently. So now some things to consider, not always about sex. Grammatical gender doesn't always align with biological sex, especially with inanimate objects. Language specific. The assignment of grammatical gender can vary between languages. Gender neutral terms. That's like person, child, spouse, teenager. So it almost seems as if it's arbitrary. For all intents and purposes, with some of your basic words, if it's not, directly a noun or a verb, but because the word itself, king, for example, kings, king being a masculine word, the attributes of its plural form are just going to be inherently masculine. Now, same distinction between woman and women. The adage to make woman plural into women, or woman being again a feminine designation, a gender specific feminine term anyway, just when you turn that into a plural form, that plural form is going to automatically support the gender specific quality. So that wath at the end of a feminine word, for it to make something plural, it easily could have been yum, just because that's also a plural form, but they're just giving it just separate designations. That term for a feminine word, this term for a masculine word. So this is a linguistic classification system where every noun in the language is assigned a gender, regardless of whether it refers to a living being or an inanimate object. Languages with grammatical gender, like the Hebrew does, often have masculine, feminine, sometimes neutral categories. The assignment of a gender to a noun is often arbitrary or based on the noun's form. The example they're given is ending in "a." In Spanish, often indicates feminine rather than its meaning or the natural sex of the referent, which I think is a useful example to give, because we do see that with Spanish, uno, una. And if you're talking about like one boy, it's going to be I don't know Spanish like that to be throwing out too many. Uno chico, one boy. So that word "one" is a very neutral term, but it's being assigned to a boy. The subject matter, the focus of the sentence or circumstances is masculine, the boy. Whereas una chica, one girl. So as they're also explaining, it's kind of arbitrary. It almost doesn't matter, but they are just giving distinct variations so that you can just have that clear separation between masculine terms, feminine terms, and how that gets assigned. Other words in a sentence, such as articles and adjectives, must agree with the noun's grammatical gender. So that's why you would see adjectives as they're saying here, articles as well, given a gender designation just because of the target that adjective or article is addressing. If it were addressing an inanimate object in itself, well, actually, we're about to get into a neutral. So using natural gender. In languages with grammatical gender, nouns that denote living beings often align with their natural gender. Man is masculine, woman is feminine, fair enough. However, when dealing with living things, grammatical gender might not always perfectly align with natural gender. For example, they're going to use German. Mädchen is a girl and is grammatically neutral despite referring to a female individual. But now that's German. So now we have to understand that we're also dealing with a separate language. So the rules might not apply the same way here. But just to kind of give us a feel for what the target goal is here and identifying it. In simpler terms, languages with grammatical gender, table might be feminine, even though it's an inanimate object and doesn't possess any feminine qualities. The gender is assigned by the language's grammar rules, not by the object's inherent nature. So just kind of at the whim of the language itself. So now, go back to this. So amath. So now truth. Truth doesn't have a physical gender identity, but it's given a feminine noun designation. That does nothing to, strengthen or weaken the term. But just according to the Hebrew culture, the Israelite culture, that's just the way that we had decided to apply that. And there's definitely different forms of it. We can see here, matka, matwa, but those are also carrying, suffixes. Let's take a look at. Let me move that around. So again, it's given that wa as a suffix. And so now if you were to take a matwa, the wa adage on there being masculine onto a feminine word, now that doesn't change it into a transgender word. That's just the application. So now, if anything, it's going to be going into, if how they designate masculine and feminine words when it's talking about either inanimate objects or, words like this, truth. I guess, and for the lack of a better example, the spirit behind the word. So now the truth. It doesn't mean that it's, soft and dainty necessarily, but, probably takes subjective to. So like, Captain DeBarmat's name, speaking, he speaks the truth. So the truth kind of being subsequent to the verb for speak. So now let's take a look at the word debar then. or to speak, to say. Get the wrong one. Okay. La the bar. Now, so again, we see here to speak, la the bar, la being the preposition there, but the bar. Let's open this. All right, so it's just giving it a verb. Actually, let me check one thing real quick. Bar. All right, so infinitive construct. So they're not giving it, masculine or feminine quality at all. Let's look at these. So it expresses simple, intensive, resultative, causative, or other kinds of verbal action depending on the context. Infinitive construct, which is a verbal noun, which is used in Hebrew much the same way that English uses the infinitive to go. And it's gerund going. It is often prefixed with the preposition to, which in this case, it literally was to speak. La. La is to, and then the bar speak. So I guess this would be considered a gender neutral verb. But truth being the adjective to the verb here, the verb being speak, truth being the adjective. Just going to bring it back to a moth real quick. Well, moth. So I mean, it gets generally used as a noun, which is an incorrect. It is a thing. The truth is a thing. But you can also use it as an adjective. Use as an adverb. Look that up real quick. An adverb is a word or an expression that generally modifies a verb, an adjective, another adverb, a determiner, a clause, a preposition, or a sentence. Adverbs typically express manner, place, time, frequency, degrees, or level of certainty by answering questions such as how, in what way, when, where, to what extent. This is called the adverbial function. It may be performed by an individual adverb, by an adverbial phrase, or by an adverbial cause. Again, if you're looking at the definition, kind of some of the descriptive natures of it. Let's step back to the simplified Hebrew page. Now that we got some of that out the way. So the definite article. There is no indefinite article in Hebrew like they have in English, which is the a and an and. A noun by itself is typically translated based on the context of the passage with the English indefinite article a or an. The definite article in Hebrew, which is the, written as ha, in the first letter of the word it is attached to, contains what is called a dagus forte. A dagus forte, which is a dot in the middle of the word, some more Yiddish shit, such as the phrase the king. Again, in Hebrew, we got no use for that. That's small hat people trying to make sense of it. So they offer in other variations of the definite article that what are called the guttural letters. E, A, G, A, Ha, Cha, I, and also the Ra. For your translation purposes, this is the primary information about the article that is important for us to know. Too fast. All right, so the conjunction and the consecutive. Wow. So now they're calling this the wa conjunction, depending on the way you pronounce it. When this person took Hebrew, the wa was wa, but in today, more recent Hebrew grammars, it's the va. So again, this individual is even admitting that the original form of Hebrew was consonantal, and that, well, Salakia. They're indicating that there was a variation in between the wa being changed into the va, not consonant or vowel. But also showing the tampering that had gone on, because originally it was just wa. That character was just a wa. However, regardless of how we pronounce it, the function of the Hebrew conjunction, its primary translation is and. The primary translation of wa as a conjunction is and. There are instances where it is translated as but, and we had seen that just a second ago. A mist used to rise from the earth, and I guess the example that they're given, but a mist used to rise from the earth and water the whole surface of the ground. Genesis 2 and 6. And then they're going to use Exodus 14 and 1. Now the Lord spake to Moses, saying. So let's take a look at the verses that they're giving us here. So we got Genesis 2 and 6 and Exodus 14 and 1. Genesis chapter 2, verse 6. So wa'ad. But a mist. So they're attaching the wa to the word mist, which would have been ad. And this is where we always kind of have fun with it, trying to break down the sentence structure, because it's almost backwards. Because in English it's going to read, but there went up a mist. But in the Hebrew it's going to be but the mist, or well, not the, but mist went up. So in the Hebrew, like again, I'm not going to say that it's a backwards language, but Hebrew is it's kind of a primitive, very straightforward, very simplistic, very minimalistic language that was able to cover very concept or very I jammed myself up there. Complex concepts. But we can see how it's taken on that form of but in conjunction with the word mist. We're just to open that up. No, that's not what we wanted. Wow. And again, there they just spell it out plain and clean, conjunction. And we see that the English conjunction that was used is the word but. It's normally going to be and, but we see it here as but. So now let's go over to Exodus chapter 14. The example they gave was in 14:1 right away. So, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying. So now normally that and, it's going to be attached right onto spake. Let's see if I'm right on this. Hey, yo, what yadabar? So, and spake. In English, again, and the Lord spake. But in Hebrew, and spake. So now let's open this up a little bit more. Because that yadabar, that's, still just used as a verb. Sequential imperfect, though. Yeah, I like how they explain that. So the sequential imperfect, I don't know what word that is down there, but we're not even going to try to get into that. But a sequential imperfect verb functions generally like a verb with perfect conjunction. So just connected right to the conjunctive verb. Just like we're seeing with the word wa, or with the character wa being used as and or but. In the last example, we had just seen in Genesis with the mist, wa'ad. So that would be an example of a perfect conjunction because it just connected right there. But now we got this ya snuck in there, but also connects to an earlier verb to form either a sequence of time or a sequence of thought. Because the ya is normally as a preposition or a suffix that's normally indicated, or that's normally given it to a noun or pronoun, in this case, the Most High. Because in English, it's the Most High speaking, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying. So now when we have spake, the bar, what Yah, that's indicating the who being the Lord here. Grammar's fun. It's a good time. Now whatever version they were reading, to where they've rendered wa as now, that's going to be in dispute. So there's a couple others that it looks like we're going to have to correct along the way. The KJV, the King James Version Bible, is the only authorized English translation of the Bible. Not just by King James' own authority, but Commander General Yohana's authority as well. So if in different versions it reads, now the Lord spake to Moses, the Hebrew doesn't change. but it's just the English equivalents that people are giving it. Whereas correctly, it should be rendered as and in that example of Exodus 14:1. So now they give us then, they give us when. These as we go, they give us then in Leviticus 5:14. Let's see if there's a similar error going on there. Leviticus 45, we don't need that. Leviticus 5:14. And we see that error being taken there as well, though. Those liberties that these people play, it's very arrogant. Now we see here, and the Lord spake unto Moses. So now again, if we open up the toolbox here, Wayadabar, the Hebrew didn't change. The English equivalent did. So now they're just getting fancy with it. So then the Lord spake unto Moses. Now we have the word when. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, Genesis 3:6. Let's see if they keep this party going. Keeping that same standard, keeping that same energy. Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw. So Wathara. So the root word here being, all right, so Ra'ah, H7200. All right, so to see. So it's for saw. It's for the word see. Now in English, again, having to doll it all up, a lot of filler words are sometimes necessary. Whereas again, in the Hebrew, it's only very straightforward. So in the highlighted portion, we see Wathara. Wathara. So now they're throwing in the English when to try to fill in that gap for that sequential imperfect. At the same, for the sequential imperfect function to take place, because they're trying to convey that sequence of time by the word when, given that inference for somewhere on the timeline concerning time in general, when. But in the Hebrew, just very straightforward, why. And again, we're seeing that used as a conjunction. It doesn't have a Hebrew concordance, at least here. I'm pretty sure if we were to look at the physical hard copy Strong's Concordance, we'll be able to find it just by itself. But in their database, that's not the case here. It's just used as a conjunction. Again, conjunctions we had seen are commonly and. It's usually and, but then we can see or, but, for. All right. Oh, sorry, didn't share the screen. So we were doing that, my fault. So again, we got that word right here, the highlighted word, Wathara. They're saying and when. There's no Hebrew word there for when. And sometimes you're just going to see that there is no English or Hebrew equivalent for some of these English words. So the intention of it is conveyed, in different means. But just in English, to make sense of it, that's how it gets broken down. But why just playing by itself, just and as a suffix. So we can drop the when. We don't even need that. And I know it's going to sound very, very, very podunk. And saw the women. I guess that sounds better than and when saw the women. But using this as a conjunction, foresaw, to complete this thought in English, you need when. Just to make it sound better, make it sound proper. English is so proper. Now we got the version so here. Now, but the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it is so, why them? Why am I this way? So she went to inquire of the Lord. So they're not using it for so here, it doesn't sound like. They're trying to get that for here. Now, in Genesis 25 and 22, just to be sure, let's take a look. Oh, that's 32. 25 and 22 is what we want. Oh, we see something different here. In English, it reads in the KJV, and she went to inquire of the Lord. So again, in whatever version these people are going off of for their simplified Hebrew grammar lesson in the Blue Letter Bible, it does not match up with the KJV. Here we can see the word and. So now it's going to be attached to went. Wathalad. And she went. Again, the root word being yalad, a verb. So walk, go, come, lead, bring, lead away, carry, cause, move, go away, proceed. Just depending on the different applications, as always. We can see the form that it takes, and she went. Wathalad. So now the she in this case is kind of redundant. But to make sense of the Hebrew phrase here, as you know, it's not enough in English that the subject matter is about her and her experience with the twins struggling in the womb. So look this back up. If it lets me. There we go. And again, Yalad not taking any gender identity or dysphoria. Just being a gender neutral term. Doesn't really need any designation, even though we are talking about her. And Sister Sammy, I always thought being called a queen before coming into the truth, it was disrespectful. Good. I'm glad you had that notion about the word. Very subtle manipulation being used. Just to try to make make that deal sound attractive. So you found it disrespectful too. Good instincts. Good instincts, Sammy. Now stepping back to the simplified. So now again, they're switching over to va. Consecutive is used of the va in a continued narration. It's still going to be the same Hebrew word wa. It's never going to change pronunciation. That the consonantal values never change pronunciation. Our so-called vowel sounds never change pronunciation. White people do though. So again, trying to make sense of our culture and their dialect, but under our culture, their language, our dialect. Trying to smooth that all out, we get a dumpster fire like this. So the examples that they're going to try to use here in 1 Kings chapter 12. So the king did not listen. Perfect verb form that begins and leads this narration. So the king did not listen to the people, for it was a turn of events from the Lord. Let's just take a look at 1 Kings chapter 12. Chapters 15 and 16, or it's like verses 15 and 16. And again, we can already see that it reads differently than how they have it in their version. So we'll just read the correct. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people. Let's open up the toolbox interlinear just so that we can have application. So that why that they're talking about concerning the imperfect, they call it the imperfect form of a verb. Wala'a. So la'a meaning not. In this case, it's going to be not. And we can see in the English, not comes quite a ways down the line in succession of the English words. So now if you're following along up top in the highlighted portion, if you follow along with the cursor as it moves over the words underneath, it's going to highlight, it's going to highlight the corresponding Hebrew character or Hebrew word that matches to the English word. So not hearkened is the opening combination here. Wala'a shemai. So now you might often hear us in the school using shemai in the form of catching people's attention, like it's using it as a command. Listen, like hear me, listen up, be quiet, listen, shemai. But we see wala'a shemai, not hearken. So now they're expressing in English again, wherefore the king hearken not. So that's that equivalent right there. Wala'a shemai, not hearken. And the wad taken again a conjunction, but we're not seeing the typical conjunctive vocab words that they're offering, and, or, but, for. So it doesn't mean that the grammatical rules are just, tossed out the window. Because we're still trying to make that connection here. And the connection between not and hearkened, I think, is going to be where that mystery gets solved. Without the use of the English common conjunctions of and, or, but, for. We don't see any other adage up there. Hearken not. It's not hearkened the not, or and not hearkened. But you could give it that application just from experience and on how English can flow. So when we see, kind of an anomaly like this, not hearkened, still having that conjunction. Yeah, I don't see no vowel over here. But just the application, again, to kind of bridge that gap between the verb and the particle, the negative particle in this sense, and the verb. So just so that we understood what a particle is, they are auxiliary words that do not fit neatly into any specific grammatical category. That makes sense. Again, just trying to bridge that gap. Even in Hebrew, using terms like this to bridge the gap. In English, you just gotta, I guess, use a couple more. So now it's viewed as a negative particle. So interrogative particles indicate that a sentence is a question. The interrogative particle maya and ma can also function as interrogative pronouns, who and what, or indefinite pronouns, whoever and whatever. Does not answer for our situation here, but good to know nonetheless. And let's get down again. All right, so it just reads completely different. Application now, and even in their mistranslation of the characters of the words, the application, it doesn't change the definition or pronunciation of it in Hebrew, but it does change it in English or in Yiddish. So now they're giving us a couple. When all saw, using saw as an imperfect verb, following the lead of the perfect verb that began in the narration. That the king did not listen to them, the people answered, and that answered takes on an imperfect verb form, following the lead of perfect verb, the king. Then answered the king, saying, portion do we have in David? You have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now look after your own house. David, so did David. So Israel departed from their tents. Skipping down to the inseparable prepositions. 3 prepositions in Hebrew that are always attached to the word they are modifying, and that is why they are called inseparable. Fair enough. Prepositions with the primary meanings. Now they're even given us alphabetical order: ba, ka, and la. So ba carrying in, by, or with. Ka is a preposition as or like. La is a preposition to, for, or at. Now, all these prepositions have other translations as well. Ba also meaning among, before, or it's like ba being among or before. Thus and after for ka. Into or concerning for la. And many others. But they're saying the first ones listed are primarily identified. That's how they're primarily used. Like, yeah, I should explain that a little bit clearer. up here is how they are primarily used when you see them before any word in Hebrew. They're primarily used in this fashion. But again, depending on the context and the application of it, you'll see them take on these responsibilities as well. So now we're in section 3, looking at verb tenses. We'll be entering an extremely exciting phase of this study. Let's check. All right, we're getting close to the end of today's time. But we'll just step into this to get ready for next week, because this will be probably the more direct focus of next week's class is these verb tenses. That was kind of the agenda for today, but having to define some of these grammatical applications and apparatuses and appendages, all these other fun vocabulary words, even for myself, just for clarity, was kind of necessary. But we're going to be entering this to learn about verb tenses, voices, moods, so kind of, inferences, the atmosphere of it. Might be called the guts of the biblical Hebrew, that this is what will enable us to understand what is actually being said in the Hebrew text. Again, people are going to complain left and right about context. If there's something in the Bible that sounds horrible, and then we offer the genuine definition to it, the natural accusal is you're just using context over the definition, which I think that's true in pretty much any culture, any society. You're always going to be using the priority should be given to the context before the definition. Again, we could be talking about dogs. The definition of a dog, like the plain definition of a dog, is a four-legged man, of the canine family tree. I don't know if that's not the verbatim definition of dog, but depending on how we're using that word, we could be talking about a whole lot of different things. We could be talking about food. Not to say that I'm Chinese, but if we had a hot dog, now it's a food. Could be talking about your dogs, your homies, your friends, your boys. You be talking about that dog down the block, some female that you don't like. Females can even use it, regarding the men. Not for the same purposes, depending on the context, of course. But just as they had offered an explanation, which we would agree with, that these Hebrew characters and words take on many different forms depending on the application, depending on the subject matter. So we're going to see, let's get back, let me share that screen. So again, we're going to see, when we get a little bit deeper into this, the different grammatical tenses: simple active, simple passive, intensive, causative, and how that does get expressed in the Hebrew without having to rely on the Yiddish. All right, so with that, appreciate y'all sticking this headache out. A lot of learning to go on here, even on our side of the fence, my side, I should say more. But you can stay tuned. Join us next week. We can address any of the other issues that we might run into. We're taking some of these baby steps into getting reaffirmed with our culture and language, step by step. So next Friday, we'll be right back here. Lord allow, weather permitting. Just if there's no other events or anything going on like that, and we're not, maybe we'll refer you to an outside class. Otherwise, we'll see you back here. Isupk, Milwaukee, 7 p.m. Israel Shalom.